TIF, and you can see here this starts in 1995. The TIF started in 1993, and in those 2 years, the amount of increment generated over the base year was zero. And again, you see in 99 and 2000, the amount of increment for the EAV over the base year was zero, because there was some land purchases and some buildings that were taken down. So then you have, the values now come down. And so what you'll see is then for the first few years of the TIF, you can see the amount of increment that was generated. Not very much, 100,000 in 2 years. And then it's only in the last few years that we've seen some good growth in this TIF. So again, we have the EAV. There is a tax lag between when the improvement is built and when it's collected. There were significant costs at the beginning of the TIF. Those were borne by the village. So now we're at the point with Waukegan TIF can pay its own debt service. And I think I just wanted to cover quickly some of the estimated project costs that we were talking about earlier, just to kind of put on paper what the administrator has said. We have estimated relocation, remodeling costs, 17 to 18 million. We have the Park District reimbursement, which has varied somewhat, 800,000, 2.5 million. We have the dealership site prep, public improvements, other costs, 1.5 million. So we get a total project cost between 19 and 22 million, just for round numbers. So how do we pay for that project cost? So again, the funding, we have the land sale, which is going to be $9 million. And then we have a bond issue of $10 million. And these are, again, round numbers. The debt's going to be repaid from the TIF, from the Waukegan TIF. And we just saw on the previous screen that now the Waukegan TIF is generating a certain amount of increment every year. You can pay its own debt service. But what we're going to have to do is we extend the life of the Waukegan TIF. So in those extra 12 years, we have that increment that's not been obligated for debt service. We're going to have new debt service. So we have these bond proceeds, and those proceeds can only be used to pay for TIF-eligible expenses. So then the question is, what is a TIF-eligible expense? TIF-eligible expenses are various types. Most common, property acquisition, public works. There was a part of the water main. There was a new business came in on Waukegan Road last year, and part of the water main was paid for out of the Waukegan TIF. Relocation costs, financing costs, the cost of issuing the bonds, studies, surveys, plans, professional services, demolition and site preparation. So again, these are all costs that are eligible to be paid for out of the TIF. And I believe, if there's no questions, I can be done.
Okay. Board members have
Yeah,
questions?
I have a question about the studies and surveys that we paid on these.
Yes.
What about study and survey costs incurred prior to the sale, but related to the sale?
They can be deemed, I've never been around at the beginning of a TIF. I'll pass that question on to the administrator, because I believe if it's related to a TIF project, yes, it is an eligible cost. I believe that's the answer.
But how does it get paid
That would
for?
require
Is it
a
say-
legal.
Yeah.
I think we're not in a position to answer that.
We can research that, get that.
Okay, yeah.
Good question. Samina, did you have a comment? I actually had a couple of questions, and one of my questions was expressed by an audience member, was also, market. Right now, would it be beneficial, for us? And the second question was, that came to me about, car sales and about taxes and how, when people come to purchase taxes, they pay taxes depending on the towns they live in. How does that actually work? And I wanted to clarify. So will the tax, like if somebody from Skokie were to come and purchase a car here, they pay the taxes to Skokie, or
No,
how
no,
does that
no,
work?
no,
So
no,
if you
no.
could please clarify that,
Right.
because
It's
I
the point of
wasn't
sale.
sure about that.
When somebody from Skokie buys a car in Morton Grove, it
Yeah.
goes to Morton Grove. Similarly, when somebody from Morton Grove goes to Old Orchard, that money goes to
So
Skokie.
is it just depending what county you're in? So if someone came from a different county,
No, each business has an IBT code. There's a location part of that, so it's point of sale. So if I purchase something in Morton Grove, that purchase is made in Morton Grove, the sales tax goes to Morton Grove. Now, I understand because with vehicles, when I first moved into Chicago, is people will do things like, well, I'll go across the border into Indiana and buy a car, and then I'll come back and I'll register it. If you registered in the state of Illinois, the state of Illinois will come after you and say, well, you owe us the differential from where you purchased it, where you registered it, which is kind of different when it comes to registering a car. But again, that location code, when you make the initial purchase, it would be point of sale.
And then the first question about, I mean, one of the slides says that, you know, sales, we haven't even been offered anything, so I don't know how that number came up, but I know that that was what the property was appraised for, but maybe, I mean, that's a very delicate situation. I mean, are we
Yeah.
getting our money, are we getting our money's worth? I mean, some people have also said that, well, now construction costs are also low, so it'll eventually even out. Like in a very strong market, maybe we'll get more for our property, but you end up paying more for constructing, so.
It's a good question. It's kind of like, what's the best time to sell your home? I can't answer that. I don't have a forecast whether. I think the one thing is the inflated property values that we experienced for a large part of this recession. I don't see it jumping back to that level. I think what we had is basically a real estate bubble. So that's just my own feeling. Somebody else might differ.
So, well, years a long time. What happens if dealership decides to close before that? So they close the dealership for today.
Well, there is always that possibility. I think maybe it's also the sense of the strength of the individual dealership. This company has several dealerships. It's the second generation. The individual and his brother, I believe, bought dealerships from his father.
My question is more in
The next generation is ready to take over.
Sure.
I think, I understand that question. The other side of it is, when he broached that with the dealer, he said, well, I wouldn't be putting $12 million in investment if I didn't feel some sense of security. That's probably the best answer. I mean, he's putting much of his own money into this.
I have a question related to the park district. There was an idea, perhaps, or open discussion, earlier meeting that to help offset the commitment to the park district, there might be village property that could be made available in lieu of this. Did I get that wrong, or is that possibility exist to help offset some of the loss to the park district?
I had not heard that discussed.
Perhaps I misunderstood.
Yeah. The village owns some property that we're really hoping more for redevelopment. That would be a village board decision.
Okay, so again, this conversation leads us right into the next item for discussion where we'd like to make the board aware that, as Selena just said, up until this point of time, we've had no offer from the car dealer. What we did get this week, though, that's new, is a letter of intent. So Landmark Corporation is who the car dealer is working through, and we did receive from them a letter addressed to us, and it's saying that he does have a client. Landmark Corporation has a client who is interested in investigating the feasibility of developing this site. And he's alerting us of their interest in the site, but they would like to know if there's community support for this idea.